That was quite the storm, Monica says as she steps out onto the back patio, setting a cup of coffee down on the table for me. I nod, enjoying the early morning sun on my face. The second-floor patio of our Airbnb looks out onto Skeens Creek Beach. The waters of the Bass Strait smooth the Australian sand and rocks in a motion as old as time. The sound of the waves is relaxing in a way that's probably steeped in human evolution. Below us, in the fenced-in backyard, Monica's little Pomeranian sniffs around, barking and growling occasionally. It's our first trip together, and I would have preferred that Monica's dog not be here, but I'm not about to let it ruin my vacation. It's not that I don't like dogs. I love them. But it's a two-way street, and Micah has bitten me more than once. She thinks she's protecting Monica when she does it, I guess, but all she's doing is pissing me off. She won't even let me pet her. If I get close to her, she growls. So I don't really pay it much mind as the dog growls and barks at something down along the bushy fence line. I thank Monica for the coffee, and we both sit there, drinking our wake-up juice while scanning the beach and the endless horizon beyond. The beach is messy with clumps and strands of what I can only guess is kelp. Must have washed up during last night's storm. We got to the Airbnb just before the storm rolled in last night, and I'm happy to see that blue skies are back, and I want to spend much of that time relaxing on the beach or swimming in the ocean. What do you say about a walk? I ask Monica. I saw a little food truck parked down the road on the way in last night. We can check that out, get some breakfast, and then walk back along the beach. Monica smiles. Sounds great. We finish our coffee and gear up, getting Micah in her harness. Then we head down the road toward the little gathering of food trucks, sure that at least one of them will be open to serve breakfast. There's a little playground set off the road that skirts the coast, and as we approach it, we can hear a woman screaming someone's name. When we get closer, we see a woman in her late 30s running up to the park from the adjacent neighborhood screaming, "Nicholas! Nicholas! Where are you?" Her frightened gaze turns to us across the road, and she says in her Australian accent, "Have you seen my son Nicholas? He's 10 years old, blonde. He said he was coming to the park." Both Monica and I shake our heads sadly. "We'll keep an eye out as we walk," I call to her, but she's already turning away, going to look for her child somewhere else. "How terrible," Monica says. "I can't imagine. I turn into a nervous wreck when Micah gets out of the yard or hides from me, and she's only a dog." We continue on and get breakfast tacos from a food truck, eating them at one of the picnic tables provided. Then we trek down a public walkway between a couple of houses and start down the beach to our rental. We're not on the beach long before Micah starts freaking out, barking at the ocean and tugging on the leash. "What is her deal?" I ask. "Does she not like the ocean?" Monica shakes her head. "I'm not sure. I've never seen her act like this before. Unless I'm trying to snuggle with you," I remind her. "Then she's all over it." Monica smirks. "That's different, and you know it. She's going nuts. Come on, Micah, come on." Monica has to drag Micah away, but she only stops barking for a little while we detour around the large and small clumps of dark green kelp littering the beach. By the time we get back to the Airbnb, I have a headache from all the barking. Only calling it barking isn't quite right. It's more like yipping, and it's driving me nuts. I convince Monica to leave the dog at the property while we go out and enjoy the beach. It doesn't take much convincing, because I can tell even she's near her wit's end with the dog. Monica puts Micah in the backyard while we change into our swimsuits and get oiled up with sunscreen. But when we're about to leave, Monica goes out to check on the dog, only to find her missing. We search the house and the yard, finding no sign of Micah. But on my second pass through the yard, I find a narrow gap in the bottom of the fence, half hidden by a hardy bush. And I can tell by the freshly churned dirt that Micah dug her way out. "Monica!" I call. "You better come look at this." Monica rushes over and looks at the gap while I hold the bush aside. "Oh my God," she says. "Oh my God, Tom, what are we gonna do?" Her eyes well up with tears. "Hey, it's okay," I say. "We'll find her. I bet she's on the beach somewhere, barking at the ocean. Let's go look, okay?" Monica nods, her bottom lip quivering. She loves that dog. We head out the back gate, leaving it open just in case the dog decides to come back. The beach has more people on it now, but no more than a dozen that I can see. We decide to split up and walk in different directions, agreeing to meet back at the house in 20 minutes if we don't find the dog. If one of us finds the dog, we'll simply call the other one and let them know. I take a right down the beach, the ocean on my left. Monica goes the other way. Much like the woman searching for her son, I ask the few people I pass if they've seen a little Pomeranian. They all shake their heads. The late morning sun shines down from a cloudless sky as I search. The waves slosh onto the stretches of sand and crash into the rocky areas. The kelp twitches here and there. I pay none of this much mind, calling and whistling for Micah while scanning far and wide for the little ball of blonde brown fur. Checking my phone, I see it's time for me to turn around and head back. I still haven't heard from Monica, so I know she hasn't found the dog either. I decide to take off my shoes and walk along the beach where the water is. Might as well enjoy myself for a bit while searching. Besides, if I have to chase after the dog, it will be much easier without shoes on. As I'm walking along a momentarily deserted stretch of beach, a wave picks up a clump of kelp and sends it toward my legs. The kelp tangles around my feet, nearly causing me to trip. I stop walking and attempt to extract my feet from the tangle of slimy algae. But as I go to pull my right foot out, the kelp seems to tighten, pulling my ankles closer together. Curious how this could happen, I look to see that the branch extends out into the ocean. An undercurrent must have pulled on it, causing it to tighten like that. Trying to pull my feet out again, I find that the kelp is tougher than it looks, and it's getting tighter, like a rope around my ankles. It's starting to hurt, digging into my skin. Feeling the first twinges of panic, I toss my shoes and socks aside and bend down to get my hands involved. My feet are yanked out from under me, and I find myself being dragged into the water. I dig my fingers into the sand, but it's no use. Soon, I'm fully submerged in ocean water, and I'm still being dragged away from the safety of the beach. Thrashing, I put all my energy into breaking the kelp around my ankles. I'm dragged over a formation of coral reef, which gores my skin here and there. I reach out and grab onto a sharp fin of the reef, finally stopping my momentum. But the kelp is still pulling on me, and I can see through the water that the coral won't hold. A moment later, the thing breaks away, and I'm pulled deeper into the ocean. But now I have a makeshift tool in my hands. I fight the panic that closes in on me as the single breath I manage to take runs down to its last atoms of oxygen. Reaching down with the broken coral, I slice at the kelp around my ankles. The first swipe does little, but the second and third do some damage, and with the fourth swipe, the kelp breaks, freeing me. I swim as hard and as fast as I can to the surface, busting through the water and gulping in oxygen. But I have no time to relax. The thought of more kelp coming up to grab me propels me forward as I swim back toward the beach. I keep the fin of coral in one hand, just in case. Finally, I trudge gasping onto the beach, staying well clear of any kelp washed up on shore. I have several small cuts on my body, and my shirt is torn from being dragged across the coral. Otherwise, I'm okay. As the fear subsides, I come to my senses. Kelp doesn't attack people. It can't. It's not an animal. It doesn't have a brain. There must be something else at work here. But what? Some malevolent sea being that uses kelp like some kind of reverse fishing line? Snagging humans and pulling them into the sea to eat? How ridiculous is that notion? What I just experienced was a freak accident, a fluke. Maybe the kelp was attached to a boat that I didn't see, and it got tangled around my feet just before the boat took off, dragging me with it. It's the only explanation that makes any sense. But, for some reason, I refuse to let go of the wedge of coral in my hand. Getting to my feet, I reach into my pocket for my phone, not surprised to find that it's ruined. I find my shoes and make my way back down the beach toward our Airbnb. And when I'm still about 100 yards away, I see Monica standing there on the beach, no dog with her. She waves and starts over toward me. I wave back. But before I've gone another 10 yards, I see something in a rocky outcropping half submerged in water. In a cleft in the rock, I see what could be the fur of a Pomeranian. I move over toward it, walking carefully on the slippery rocks. When I get to the cleft, my shoulders fall as I see what's in there. It's Micah. She's clearly dead, wrapped tightly in kelp. This can't be a coincidence. And I realized that the dog wasn't barking at the ocean earlier. She was barking at the strands of kelp on the beach. I also think I know what happened to that poor missing kid. Just as I'm thinking about that, Monica screams from nearby. I whip my head up to see her near the edge of the rocky outcropping, where the sand starts again. A large strand of kelp is wrapping itself up her legs like a boa constrictor, going for the kill. She's pulled from her feet and yanked into the ocean. Dropping my shoes and socks again, I run across the slippery rocks as fast as I can, jumping into the ocean with the edge of a coral still in hand. I look around frantically under the water, seeing no sign of Monica. But there's a forest of kelp nearby. It seems like the most logical place to search, even if it's not the smartest. I swim into the underwater forest, shoving through the gently waving strands of kelp, and I see Monica, half obscured ahead, wrapped almost entirely in kelp. As I swim toward her, strands of kelp reach out to snag me. I slash out with the blade of coral, cutting them as hard and as fast as I can. But it's taking too long. Monica has stopped moving, and there are no more bubbles coming out of her mouth. After slashing several more strands of kelp, I finally reach her and manage to cut her free. Grabbing her with one arm, I pull her to the surface. "Babe, breathe! You gotta breathe!" She makes no response. I get her to the beach. She's limp and pale. I don't know how long she's been unconscious. Setting the piece of coral aside, I recall CPR from my Boy Scout days. I perform what I hope is the right version of CPR while shouting for help. There's no one around, and in my peripheral vision, I can see more kelp coming in from the ocean, riding on gentle waves. Strands of the stuff on the beach seem to get closer every time I look away. "Monica, come on!" The kelp is getting closer now. It's all around us. I won't leave her though. I won't let them take her again. Stopping the chest compressions, I breathe into her lungs. A strand of kelp moves toward her leg, only a foot away. Monica convulses and expels water from her lungs, coughing and taking great, gasping breaths. I grab for the piece of coral and spin, slamming it down on the nearest piece of kelp. "Come on, you bastards!" I yell. "Come on!" The kelp stops moving toward us, and just as slowly, it starts moving away. They know who they're messing with now. They've taken the hint. Monica and I get up and work our way up the beach, back toward the Airbnb. As we approach the back gate, Monica speaks for the first time since nearly dying. "Worst vacation ever." The inspiration for this story comes from SCP-4159 in the SCP Foundation archives. If you liked this story, there are plenty more like it on my sister podcast, The SCP Experience. I publish regular episodes, so be sure to subscribe or follow for updates on new horror episodes on the SCP Experience podcast. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy these stories, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out some more of my episodes here.